UFOs can fly, but they can't hide. That is the hope, anyway. It is Disclosure Day in Washington. Lawmakers, whistleblowers, and some of the biggest names in the UFO universe, many of them guests on this very show, landed on Capitol Hill for a day-long forum on, of all things, UFOs. This wasn't a congressional hearing. It was a public event staged by UFO advocates for UFO advocates, and open to all who are curious about the unknown and want further government transparency about what is in our skies. Moments ago, I spoke with the man who spearheaded this groundbreaking forum through his foundation. Christopher Mellon is a former high-ranking Pentagon intelligence official. He's also the man who helped Congress track down the UFO videos that you've been seeing in those file dumps. We'll bring you our conversation in just a moment. But first, let's get to some of those disclosures. Several came out of this forum, but one in particular has the UFO community raising its fists in solidarity. Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna says credible people want the public to know about recovered non-human spacecraft and biologics, but that they are worried about retribution. So she's working to get them immunity.
We know for a fact that there have been a few very credible whistleblowers that we've talked to that allege that they have information specifically pertaining to this, but they're afraid of losing their clearances. So we have talked directly to the White House. Stephen Miller is absolutely incredible on this topic. And we are providing them with a list of people that will be given immunity in that they will not have to face retribution in the future for violation of their security clearance, or in some cases, maybe the Espionage Act, whatever it might be.
Now, former intelligence officer David Grush has been pushing for that immunity for 3 years after testifying under oath that the government has non-human bodies in storage. Another bombshell today came from Missouri Republican Congressman Eric Burleson. He says MIT Lincoln Labs has agreed to hand over an Air Force video from 74 years ago about a UFO briefing.
They have acknowledged that it exists and that they're in the process of getting it to us. But what my understanding is that it's of, and I forget the general's name. He's an Air Force general who is briefing MIT scientists about, I believe it's the event that happened in Washington D.C. in 1952. So that would be important historical information to have.
Congressman Burleson is referring to a famous series of UFO incidents in 1952, often referred to as the invasion of Washington. In the UFO community, it's right up there with Roswell and the Phoenix Lights. Now, if these revelations today are true, the next several weeks could be groundbreaking, though many of us are still waiting for definitive proof of life beyond Earth. My first guest tonight says it's only a matter of time, and that finding out just what is appearing in our skies on a regular basis is a matter of national security. Christopher Mellon has dedicated his career to advocating for UFO transparency and whistleblower protection, and he's hopeful the public will soon get the big disclosure, the one that changes the conversation forever. Christopher, thanks so much for being here. I was really struck by something you said in your opening remarks today, that the facts are undeniable that something gravely serious is occurring in our airspace, and in many cases, our government does not understand the origin, capability, or intentions of these intruders. Wow.
That's absolutely true, and I'm sorry to say that these kinds of incursions have been happening at bases all over the United States and overseas, and it isn't as widely known as it ought to be. But what's happening to Russia today at the hands of the Ukraine with drones could happen just as easily here tomorrow, I'm afraid.
But you're saying they're not drones, they're something else?
We don't know. That's part of the problem. It's a mystery. So in some cases, it probably is drones. In other cases, it seems to be something more advanced. And this has been going on for many, many years, for decades back to World War II, but not as aggressively, not as much in our face as we've been experiencing lately.
You say our government is, for the most part, I think you quoted Senator Roger Wicker, that the Pentagon is mystified as to what these things are. But at least a handful of people inside the government must know something about what's going on, because today Congressman Luna announced she's working with the White House to provide immunity for UFO whistleblowers, people who claim to know about alien spacecraft and even alien remains that our government has. If the government really has these things, how has it remained secret for so long?
Well, we're talking about a couple of possibly different things. So one of the difficulties is when we see these lighted objects moving over an airfield, are they Chinese drones or are they something much more exotic? And in many cases, it's hard to tell. So it's not clear that the whistleblowers have any indication or knowledge of these particular events. They do, some of them have information, it seems, that suggests that our government has a great deal more than it has revealed to date.
You say there are hundreds and hundreds of new sightings by our military every year, and that many
Correct.
of these UAPs are over sensitive bases and over Navy ships while they're at sea. You say UAPs violated airspace over Langley Air Force Base every night for 2 weeks, and that the Air Force eventually moved an entire squadron of F-22s out because it was, quote, mystified about what those objects were or what they were doing.
That's correct. And that is a fairly staggering fact. And the Air Force, to this date, and the administration do not seem to know where those objects came from, despite the fact that it went on for 17 days.
Every night for 17 days.
Special aircraft and 17 days. And these kinds of intrusions are actually disrupting military operations. So if the Air Combat Command at Langley can't control its own airspace, then you wonder how effectively could they protect Washington and other cities. It's really hard to believe that we weren't able to track these things down, but that is in fact the case.
And it's not just Langley. It also happened over Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana and over sensitive test ranges. Whatever these
Correct.
objects are they? Do they appear to be probing our defense capabilities?
In some cases, they do. In some cases, they seem very deliberately to be trying to provoke us. That's happened with some of our Navy ships at sea, for example, where occasionally they've gone right up to the bridge of the ship and shown a light in, like just in case you didn't know that we were flying around your ship. Here we are right in your face, and you can't do anything about it. There's some extraordinary things about this pattern because this has been going on, night after night with scores and scores of these objects. And unlike what we see with typical drones, none of these things have malfunctioned. None have fallen out of the sky. None of them have been vulnerable to our anti-drone technology. So it's a very capable system, whatever it is and whoever is flying it. And they've demonstrated the ability at will to operate directly over our most sensitive facilities.
Given what they can do, given the fact that not a single one has crashed or malfunctioned in any way, given the way they're moving, you have said and others have said they are moving in ways that no human-made machine can move, that would imply that they're not of this world.
Well, that is true in some cases. In the case of Langley, they generally were not flying in wildly erratic patterns. They were mostly moving straight across the airfield, and then they would veer away and disappear and head back out to sea, it seemed. So those cases could have been drones. There are other cases, however, where absolutely we see these incredible kinds of performance that surpass anything that we have on the books, even on the drawing board. For example, in some cases, the drones have gone inside a larger craft, and that larger craft has instantaneously accelerated directly away from the target area at extreme velocities, the kind of speeds that are not attainable with drones. So it's a mixed picture, but in any case, we're unable to control our airspace, as these examples demonstrate, and that's very worrisome.
You said today in your remarks that the implications are enormous. There's been concern in the past that any sort of confirmation or information about extraterrestrial life could spark panic, roil financial markets, impact even religion. Are those concerns valid?
They're valid concerns, but thankfully the data that we collected at the Disclosure Institute from a group of psychologists who did a study of this topic and from some polling data we've taken show that most Americans can handle this kind of information. It seems like a subset that might need some assistance and some counseling. Most Americans, 90%, already seem to believe that want more disclosure, want to know more, and a majority seem to believe the government is holding back information, and they seem to be able to handle it. So the good news is it doesn't look like we'd have a sort of meltdown, assuming that things continue more or less as they are, and it's not like in an invasion scenario or something radical like that. But if it's a matter of just becoming aware that we're not alone in the universe, that fact by itself doesn't seem to be a prelude necessarily to any kind of mass disruption.
Christopher Mellon, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.